Now, before you're watching this video, you should be looking at the PowerPoint right above, if you forgot any of the relationships, because that PowerPoint of videos should already be in your notes. Let's assume you already have that and you're looking at your notes though. When me and Mr. Matthews ask us to solve for x here, we first have to decide, one, what's the relationship, what angle relationship do we see, and what does that mean we know about the angles? So right here, I see that these two angles are both in the same position, but on a different vertex. This one is down and to the left, this one is down and to the left. That means that these are corresponding angles. And in our math, we know these two angles are congruent. When two things are congruent in geometry, we're allowed to just set those two things equal to each other to solve. So since these two angles are corresponding and they are congruent, we will take the first angle and we will set it equal to its corresponding angle. One angle on each side, since they're equal, they're congruent, and now we can solve. First, I want to get my x's on both sides, so I'll subtract the 14x from each side. And I'll be left with 12 is equal to 2x minus 2. Now I need to get my x isolated totally alone. I'll take care of the faraway friend first. 14 will equal 2x. And finally, 2x is multiplication. So we'll end by dividing, and we will get that x is equal to 7.
Go. All right, guys, so the next problem we're going to take a look at is this one that I've got up on the board now. We've got x plus 56 and 52, and the first thing, same as Mr. Bakke did on the last problem, is we need to identify the relationship that we're dealing with, right? Now, when I look at this problem, I see, hey, these problems are, both of these numbers are written on the inside of the two parallel lines, okay? And we talked about that in class the other day. Inside, another way we can say that is interior, okay? And they're also on opposite sides of this line, which makes them alternate interior angles, okay? So we've got this angle here, and this angle here, okay? And when I look at those and I spin this one in my head, I can kind of see how that lines up with the other one. Okay? And we should know from our notes, the ones you took from the slides up above, that alternate interior angles, like these ones, are congruent. Okay? And if they're congruent, that means that they're equal, right? So we're just going to say what we already know using an equation, right? This equals this. They're equal, so we're going to write that. X plus 56 is equal to 52. Okay? And you guys should know how to solve this. All we got to do is get rid of the 56. We end up with x is equal to -4.
Now, we have another problem. Let's identify the relationship, understand what that means for our solving, and then we'll set up the equation. So I see here that our two angles are on the outside of those two parallel lines, and as we discussed in class, exterior is another fancy way we can say the outside of things. We also see that these two angles are on opposite sides of that line, which once again makes it alternate. That's another way we can say opposite. So here I see we have alternate, opposite sides, exterior angles. Now from your notes, we should know that alternate exterior angles are congruent. So just like Mr. Matthews said, we know these are equal, so now we'll just write that relationship with an equation. We'll take one angle, 39x plus 3, and since it's congruent, we can just set it equal to the other alternate exterior angle. And now we just need to solve. We need to isolate x. We'll get rid of the far away friend first. So 39x will equal 117. Finally, we will need to divide by 39. Divide by 39. And x is going to equal 117 divided by 39 will give us our answer of x is equal to 3.
All right, guys, we're just going to keep moving, okay? This problem here, same steps as before. First thing we have to do is we have to identify what the angle relationship is, right? When I look at these angles are on the same vertex, right? They're at the same spot, but they aren't together, okay? So I can't say that like these angles add up to 180, because that's not true, okay? What these angles do, right, is they take up spots on opposite sides of the vertex, okay? Which means that they're vertical angles. Okay? And from your notes, you should remember that vertical angles are congruent. Okay? So same thing as the last problem and the problem before. If two things are congruent, they're equal. And if they're equal, we can set them equal to each other. Right? They're equal, so we can say that with a number sentence. So we're just going to write 11x plus 12 is equal to 12x plus 4. Okay? And then solve this the way you know how with your algebra. Go ahead and pause the video and solve it on your own. And hopefully you ended up with 8 equals x.
This is the last one we need to talk about today. Now, when I look at these two angles, I see that these two angles add up to the entire straight line. Whenever we have two angles that make up a straight line, we can call that a linear pair. Now, in class, we've also talked about these two angles as supplementary. We can use either name to talk about two angles like this that make up a straight line. Linear pair and supplementary angles, they're different than the other 4 problems we did. They're not congruent, they add up to 180 degrees. So this time, this angle plus this angle have to equal 180. So our equation, our number sentence will look a little different. We know they have to equal 180, so the 180 can go on one side all alone. And now this angle plus this angle have to add up to it. So we'll take the 100 plus the 26x plus 2. And now we know they have to equal 180. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve it. All right. We'll need to combine our like terms to get 102 plus 26. Oh, I forgot my x. I hope you realize I made a mistake there. Don't forget your x there, guys. Is equal to 180. Subtract the 102, subtract the 102. We're left with 26x is equal to 78. And finally, we will divide each side by 26. And we will end up with x is equal to 3. And those are the 5 angle relationships that we need to worry about when we have two parallel lines with a line going through them. Go.
Okay, guys, and then the last one we're going to look at takes the ideas that we talked about for the last 2 problems, and it makes them even more complicated, okay? So this problem says that there's a 30% chance of snow on January 12th, okay? So let's just start with that. Okay, we're going to start our probability tree. Okay, there's a chance it snows. Okay, and if it doesn't snow, we get no snow. Right? And there is 30% chance. Let's see, should we pause it and get out there?